Hey scholars, it's Miss Bridget here. I love reading your folktale stories so far. And this week we know that we have been learning more about folktale stories, and we are also practicing by writing our own folktale stories. So let's review really quick before we start our writing today. We know that folktale stories are a type of fiction that come from the author's heart and their brain. And a folktale story is a story that has been told over and over again by many different authors. And a specific type of folktale story that we have been reading are Cinderella stories. And some examples of those of Cinderella stories are Cinderella or Sumarella. You recognize those from our reading. This week, your teachers are collaborating to write our own Cinderella story. So before we move on to our second page of our writing, let's review what a Cinderella story needs. A Cinderella story has 7 parts. It has a main character, a villain, an event, and there's actually 2 events, like Mr. O'Connor mentioned, a fairy godmother, a lost thing, a solution, and a happy ending. So yesterday, Ms. Dunn created our main character. And yesterday, you may also have started on your first page or your main character. And yesterday, Ms. Dunn introduced our character as an octopus. We learned that the octopus is purple, it lives in the ocean, and the octopus's name is Octorella, and a character trait that they have is goofy. So now it's time to move on to our second page. And if we look back at the pre-write, we know that the second page of our folktale is a villain. And the villain in a Cinderella folktales are often mean and make the main character feel unpleasant. And we know that the villains in Cinderella were the stepsisters and stepmother. And another example of a villain would be from Sumarella, which were the brothers. So now I have to brainstorm characters for the villain that makes sense for our story. And I have to think about what we already know about the story. So we know that our story is in the ocean. So I have to think of a character that would make sense for the ocean. I know that turtles live in the ocean, dolphins, sharks, but I really like to draw starfish. And I know that they live in the ocean too. Okay, so my villain is going to be a starfish. And now I need to come up with a name for the starfish. I know that villains are usually mean or unkind or do unkind things, but I don't want to call this character the mean starfish. How else could I describe them? Oh, I know. This character can be sassy. I will call our villain the sassy starfish. All right, so I have my pre-write. Let's review it. Okay, so we know that our villain is a sassy starfish, and you can kind of tell by their facial expressions that their eyebrows are kind of arched, not very kind, or angry looking. A lot of times they use red words or do red things to Octorella. Okay, now it's time for writing. All right, friends, here's my second page. And these are the words that I chose to write for this page. Let's read it together. Octorella lives next door to the sassy starfish. The sassy starfish always says red words to Octorella. And from my words, the reader knows who the villain is, the sassy starfish, what makes them a villain. They say red words to Octorella, kind of what the main character, what do they do to make the main character feel unpleasant, and that's say the red words. And they also know a little bit about the setting. They're still underwater, just like what Miss Dunn introduced, but they also live next door to each other, so now they're very close. All right, friends, now it's your turn. Brainstorm who the villain in your story is and what makes them a villain. Think of a character trait or what they might do to be a villain. I cannot wait to read the second page of your folktales. Bye, scholars.